Hi y'all, what I wanted to do in this video is go over question 9 and 10 on page 1, which are already done out for you, or question 1 and 2, same thing. These are from the last lesson, the topic 4 lesson that not many of you got to, but I just wanted to go through those so you can practice that skill today. What we're going to be using here is this Pythagorean identity. Cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1 in the unit circle. X squared plus y squared is equal to the radius squared. But we're going to use a couple different variations of this. If you were to solve this for cosine, if you subtracted sine squared over, it would turn into the second version. And if you were to solve this for sine squared theta, it would turn into this third version, 1 minus cosine squared. So in these questions, your goal is going to be to get down to one trig function instead of two. So right now you have sine squared and cosine squared. So your goal here is to take this sine squared and substitute in place of that. So sine squared is equal to 1 minus cosine squared. That's what I did here. Go ahead and distribute the 6 to both of these terms. Then it's a matter of you want to have this quadratic term positive. So I did some combining like terms here. 6 minus 21 is negative 15. And then if I were to move all of these terms to the other side, they'd all switch signs. Or I can think about multiplying this entire equation by negative 1 to get this quadratic term to be a positive. All right, and now what I'm not showing here, but is the factoring by grouping. The 6 times 15 is 90, so you need numbers that multiply to 90 that add up to, in this case, 23. So we're talking 18 and 5. So what I'm not showing here is this idea of we'd have 6 cosine squared plus 18 cosine plus 5 cosine plus 15 equals 0. And then do some factoring by grouping here and here. Eventually that will get you down to these two factors. That 6 cosine theta plus 5 and that cosine theta plus 3 equals 0. At which point you can set those equal to 0 and solve. You're going to get cosine theta equals negative 5/6 and cosine theta equals negative 3. So just to recap on those two, I'm just going to scroll down here. When cosine theta equals negative 5/6, we're not going to type the negative into the calculator, so you're going to do second cosine or inverse cosine of 5/6. You're going to get 34 degrees. Cosine is x. X is negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 3. So what we're doing in quadrant 2, we're really taking the 180 degrees minus the 34. That's where the 146 comes from. And in quadrant 3, we're taking the 180 degrees plus the 34. That's where the 212 comes from. If it was in quadrant 4, we would do 360 minus the angle, in this case, 34. But we don't have to. All right, cosine theta is negative 3. When you do inverse cosine of 3 in your calculator, you're going to get error domain. Cosine is x. The x values only ever go between negative 1 and positive 1 in the unit circle. That's why this isn't yielding any more solutions. So in this case, the only solutions are going to be those two at 146 and at 214. All right, let's take a look at the second one. So you can see right off the bat, you have cosine and you have sine. So that's a problem. Your goal is to get down to one trig function. So now we know that cosine squared is equal to 1 minus sine squared. So we're using that identity and we're substituting 1 minus sine squared in place of the cosine squared. So you see that here. You're still going to need to distribute the 12. Then to combine the like terms, 12 minus 7 is, I'm realizing this is a mistake. This should be a positive 5. So now I'm wondering if this question is going to work out. Let's see. So you need numbers that multiply. 12 times 5 is 60. Multiply to 60, add to negative 11. Multiply to 60, add to negative 11. Yeah. I skipped a couple of steps. Pardon me. So 12 minus the 7 is 5, which is fine. this would be plus 5, but what I'm not showing then is if I multiply the equation by -1 or bring everything over to the other side to make this positive 12, negative 11, then that positive 5 and negative 5. So you need numbers that multiply to negative 60 that add up to negative 11. So we're good there. Negative 15 and 4. Again, you're going to do the factoring by grouping here, which I didn't show on the previous one. But same idea, it'll get you down to that. So sine theta equals negative 1/3. In the calculator, you're just doing inverse sine of positive 1/3 to get this 19 degrees. Sine is y is negative in quadrant 3 and 4. So in quadrant 3, you're taking the 180 plus the 19, is 199. And in quadrant 4, you're taking the 360 minus the 19 to get the 341. Sine of theta equals 5/4. That's 1.25. So if you think about the y values in the unit circle, they go from -1 to 1. So when you do inverse sine of 5/4, you're going to get error domain, no solutions, because that's not between -1 and 1. So what that's going to leave you with is just these two answers here, the 199 and the 341.